Today we're going to talk about goals, IEP goals. What are they? How do you write one? How do you track them? Oh my gosh, what a huge topic. Before we go into the parts of a well-written goal, I want to talk to you a second about the other stuff that's happening in education that isn't goal related. So you get the goals because in present levels you identify a need. And then you take the needs from the present levels and you put them into goals. But you're only working on the goals when you are in your special education room, your resource room, when you're with your intervention specialist. In different states, we call it different stuff. But we're only working on goals when we are receiving special education services. The rest of the day, we're working on other things. So sometimes parents come to me and they say, well, gosh, I want for my child to get access in elementary school. They might say, well, we haven't worked on the calendar, or we haven't talked anything about weather. And I say, well, goodness, that's fine, because those are things that happen in morning meeting. In almost every elementary classroom in the country, they talk about the calendar within the first half hour of the day. And so we might not need to work on that in special education because they might be getting that in general education. The reason that we have goals is so that we can track how the child is progressing on that particular goal. We might be able to track calendar skills in general education if there's a need to do it. But we really are working on the content that's in the goal if we have the goal written. So sometimes other stuff can be happening and we can work on other stuff in general education. Now let's move on to goals. What is a well-written goal? Well, a well-written goal has several components. The first thing it needs to do is it needs to articulate. It needs to say the skill. What are we going to work on? So the skill might be a math skill, like Johnny will solve 10 math problems, 10 addition problems under 20. So the goal is in that case to be able to solve 10 math problems, and the sum of the math problems has to be less than 20. So we're working on basic math skills. That's the skill, that's number one. Number two, it has to tell us the level of mastery. We set goals, but we have to know what it takes to meet the goal. When are we going to get to check the box to say, you did it, you have mastered the goal? So when we write a goal, we have to say, okay, what is the standard to master that goal? What is the level of mastery? So Johnny's going to do these math problems with 80% accuracy in 3 out of 4 trials. So Johnny only has to get 8 out of 10 correct in order to master the goal. But he has to sustain that over a period of 3 out of 4 trials. So out of 4 times that he is given the opportunity to solve 10 math problems, if he does it in 3 out of those 4 times, then we're going to say, check, you did it. So he has to solve 8 out of 10, 80%, and he has to do it in 3 out of 4 trials. That is the level of mastery. So number 2 is the level of mastery. Number 3 is an assessment strategy. How are we going to assess him? How are we going to look at it to say that you've done it? And there's lots of examples of that. But let's just say curriculum-based assessment. So as monitored by curricular-based assessment. Okay, so now we know that Johnny's going to do his math problems, and we know how much he has to get correct in order to get it checked off as having been met, and how long he has to sustain that skill so that we're certain that he has retained the information. And then we talk about how we're going to assess him. And then the 5th thing we talk about is how often we're going to assess him. As measured weekly, or as measured bi-weekly, or as measured monthly or daily. We're looking at how frequently we measure him. And if we get the skill, that level of mastery, the assessment strategy, and the frequency done, then we know we've got a well-written goal. And that's the goal to writing a well-written goal, is getting those 4 components.